Welcome to the O Show with Orlana Darkins Drewery, your connection to events, topical interests, issues, and the movers and shakers in our world, and the opportunity to learn things that make you say, oh. Many health experts are predicting that the 2022 cold and flu season could be the most severe in years. Joining me today is Dr. Ian Smith. He is the author of the #1 New York Times bestselling books, Shred, The Revolutionary Diet, and Super Shred, The Big Results Diet, The Blast the Sugar Out, and The Clean 20. He is a former co-host of the Emmy award-winning syndicated daytime talk show, The Doctors, and he is currently the medical contributor of the nationally syndicated television show, The Rachel Ray Show. Dr. Smith, welcome to the O Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to join you.
So let's jump right in because I'm really nervous about this. Experts are saying that this is going to be the most severe cold and flu season. So what should we expect?
Well, experts are saying that not necessarily because there are more viruses or bugs that are in the air, not because it's more contagious than it's been before, but pretty much because most of us have been masked for the last 2.5 years. And even though everyone was masked to prevent COVID, what people didn't realize was that being masked also prevented other airborne diseases like cold and flu. Also, we were very meticulous about washing our hands and sanitizing surfaces. That was critical because one of the common ways that we can transmit cold and flu is through contaminated surfaces. So it probably will be a pretty severe, relatively speaking, season simply because we aren't going through the protective measures that we were using for COVID. So people need to sanitize. You can still wear your mask. I still wear my mask, even though it's not mandated. There's a reason why you haven't had the cold and flu for a long time. It's because of your mask and sanitary reasons. The other part is that people need to get vaccinated. The flu vaccine is a vaccine that occurs every year. One vaccine does not last from last year or 2 years ago. You need to get a new flu vaccine every year. It's quick, it's easy. And while it will not protect against all strains of the flu virus, the intention of the vaccine is to protect against what experts are predicting are going to be the most common strains that we witness.
And so as we navigate cold and flu season, I know you mentioned prevention measures, sanitizing, continue to do that, wear your mask. I mean, just for preventive reasons. Any over-the-counter products that we can use just in case we do get the cold or flu?
Yes, for sure. So there are home remedies that you can try, things like honey, warm tea with lemon, honey, steaming in a hot shower. These are things that you can do at home, but there are also over-the-counter remedies that are a great addition to the arsenal against cold and flu. Remember, the cold and flu are viruses, so you don't treat them with antibiotics, but there are medications that are over-the-counter that you can use that will help reduce the severity of the symptoms as well as how long the symptoms will last. One of the important things to look for are two ingredients, guanfacine, which is very important, which will help, with your mucus and your membranes. Another one is called dextromethorphan, which is also important because this can help with your cough. If you look at something like the Mucinex extended release tablets, they're interesting because they can last up to 12 hours. And according to pharmacists, it's the #1 recommended expectorant. And it helps with congestion and releasing and smoothing out your mucus so that it's you can get it up and it helps relieve that congestion.
Now, cold and flu, sometimes it's, hard to decide or know for yourself if you have a cold, flu, or COVID. So if you have any symptoms, do you recommend a COVID test, or do you feel like we should be able to tell the difference at this point?
Well, no, it's very difficult. When you look at cold, COVID, and flu, the three of them share a lot of things. And so people need to be aware what some of the symptoms are. If you have a runny nose, if you have a headache, It could be either three of them. So if you're not feeling better, within 24 to 36 hours, maybe, you might want to take, an at-home COVID test if that's available to you. The other thing is you also should realize that if you're experiencing these symptoms, realize that you can be contagious. So make sure you are sanitizing, wearing a mask, maybe avoiding contact with others until you can determine whether or not it's the cold, the flu, or COVID. The flu is interesting because people often report muscle aches. And yes, you can get muscle aches with COVID. But when you're looking at things that may be a little distinguishing, things like long muscle aches can be an issue. Also, the length of time. COVID can tend to last up to 8 days or more after you first start experiencing symptoms, when the cold and flu tend to be much shorter. So if you're in an illness that's lasting a pretty long time, that's another potential indicator that it may be COVID and not cold and flu. But the bottom line is, if you're worried about COVID, get tested so that you know it's not COVID. If it's cold or flu, you know it's going to go away. But remember, people who are very young or who are the elderly are extreme risk from also having severe consequences from the flu. Let's not ignore the fact that the flu kills over 60,000 people on average every year, and it typically kills those who are most vulnerable or who have immune systems that are compromised.
So let me ask you, this is my last question. You mentioned, it's very important to get vaccinated. What about the importance of a flu shot? Now, I'm going to admit something. I've never had the flu shot. So at this stage, is this something that I should do, or should I, am I pretty good?
Well, you're not alone, unfortunately. A lot of you have not had the flu shot. The flu shot is very important. It's very helpful. And even if you get infected by another flu virus that's not part of the flu vaccine, some studies have shown it can actually reduce the severity of some of your symptoms. So you should definitely get the flu vaccine. It's not too late, by the way. The peak season for the flu is between December and February. So you're right on time to get it early. And people have to realize, just because you got the COVID vaccine doesn't mean you don't need the flu vaccine. There are two very different vaccines. They are two very different viruses, and the vaccines do not protect against the other illness. So yes, I heavily recommend you and others get the flu vaccine. It's extremely important. If not for yourself, maybe for someone else who you live with or you're around who may be immunocompromised or maybe susceptible to more severe consequences if they were to be infected by the flu.
And for those of us, including myself, when we get our flu shot, any side effects that we should look out for?
Always there's some pain at the area of injection you should be careful of. Some people may have, a feeling of achiness, almost like they have the flu. That is completely normal. It's your immune system responding to the vaccine. The purpose of the vaccine is to get your immune system to respond so that if you do see the real virus, the immune system now is primed and ready to go. So those are some of the things that you might experience. You shouldn't be worried about it. That's completely normal.
Dr. Ian Smith, thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions, of course, you can go to mucinex.com or you can stop by Walmart or any of your local pharmacy dealers to check out more information.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, keep shining.